they'll come. That's the way that works.
I had to laugh. Because we've gone a few days without having a Shedeur discussion.
We haven't mentioned Shedeur at all in a week.
There is a video, and people brought this to my attention, and I'm glad they did. Got some sage words from one Jim Tressel. It looked like, was he at Byers Field? Could you tell where that was?
We got to look at it.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
He wasn't supposed to be there. Not on that field, not in front of that man, not with everything riding on a single workout nobody was even supposed to notice. But someone had a phone out, and in the time it took for that clip to hit social media, the entire conversation around the Cleveland Browns quarterback room changed. Because standing there, watching Shedeur Sanders throw, wasn't just some retired coach killing time in the offseason. It was Jim Tressel, national champion, Ohio icon, a man whose name still makes grown men in this state go quiet out of respect. And when a video like that leaks, when a legend like that shows up unannounced to watch a rookie work, people don't just notice, they start asking questions, big ones. Questions that Andrew Berry, sitting in his front office in Berea, probably didn't want to answer this early in the summer. Because here's the thing about the NFL offseason, it's supposed to be quiet. It's supposed to be vacations and voluntary workouts, and nothing that actually moves the needle. But Cleveland doesn't do quiet. Not with this quarterback room. Not with this much history stacked on one roster. Think about where this all started. Shedeur Sanders comes into Cleveland already carrying more weight than any rookie should have to carry. Every eye in the building, every microphone in the media scrum, every fan with a take. He wasn't just competing for a job. He was competing for a narrative. And in the NFL, sometimes the narrative decides your career before the tape even does.
There's two things here. One, the best news that you've given me over the last week about Shedeur Sanders is that he's working out in front of Jim Tressel.
Yes.
And taking coaching from Jim Tressel, who is a multiple-time national champion, not just with Ohio State, but with Youngstown State.
Legendary.
And is frankly one of the most well-liked figures in football or in society in the state of Ohio.
I would vote for him for politics, even if he wasn't necessarily on my team.
That's the best news of the week about Shedeur.
And the tape he was up against wasn't nothing. Deshaun Watson, a name that once meant Pro Bowl trips and franchise quarterback money, a name that also means one of the most scrutinized contracts in modern football history. So right there, before a single snap of meaningful football, you already had the setup for a story that writes itself. Old money versus new hope, proven versus unproven. Except in this case, proven came with an asterisk the size of a stadium. Now here's where the noise really starts. Every single day, it feels like somebody in Cleveland media is handing out an edge. Who looked better in walkthroughs? Who took more first-team reps? Who smiled at who on the sideline? It became this daily ritual, almost a joke at this point, where analysts and fans debate who's winning a competition that hasn't even technically started. And into that mess walks Jim Tressel. Because when a man with that resume shows up to watch you throw, that's not a small detail, that's a headline. And headlines in Cleveland move fast. So naturally, people started connecting dots. Was Tressel just an Ohio guy checking out a hometown story? Or was there something deeper? A mentorship, a signal, a quiet endorsement from one of the most respected football minds in the state? Nobody in the building confirmed anything. But in football, silence is its own kind of headline. And that's when the tension really built. Because while all of this swirled, the video, the buzz, the speculation, reports started circulating about the other side of the quarterback room. Insurance conversations, contract restructuring, whispers about what happens if Watson's name comes off the books early. Suddenly, this wasn't just a quarterback competition anymore. It was a business decision playing out in real time, and Shedeur Sanders was standing right in the middle of it, whether he asked to be or not.
Crypto language.
So the Shedeur Sanders stories, I'm here for. Insurance conversations. I'm not an insurance adjuster. I don't even know the name of my insurance agent, to be honest with you. So I don't need to deal with that anymore. So I don't want to hear about it anymore. He's going to go out there. I'm sure he'll get reps with the ones, and they'll want to make him the starter at the beginning because he's the veteran. And if he did what he did over the spring and over the early summer, he'll come back to the mean because he still ain't that great. And all the best football he had was 6 years.
Here's where you have to give Andrew Berry some credit, even if the fan base wants to argue about it every single day. Berry built his reputation on patience, on not panicking, on letting situations play out instead of forcing a headline just to please a fan base that wants answers yesterday. But patience has a shelf life in this league, and every day this quarterback story drags on, the pressure on him multiplies. Because here's the uncomfortable truth nobody wants to say out loud. If Shedeur Sanders takes this job and runs with it, Barry looks like a genius who let the room sort itself out. But if this drags into the season without resolution, if the locker room starts to fracture over who's actually the guy, that patience turns into a headline of a very different kind. And in Cleveland, that kind of headline doesn't fade quietly. So let's get back to the football, because that's ultimately what decides all of this. Sanders' mindset through this stretch has been the story underneath the story. People expected some rookie caught in the headlights. Instead, what came out of Berea was something calmer. Guys in that building, teammates, coaches, even guys who've been vocal about believing in the kid publicly, kept describing the same thing. A quarterback who doesn't flinch when the noise gets loud, who treats a legendary coach watching from the sideline the same way he treats a random Tuesday practice rep. That's not nothing. In fact, in a league that chews up rookie quarterbacks who can't handle pressure, that kind of even-keeled mentality might be the single biggest thing working in his favor right now. And this is where the story shifts, because it's not just about Sanders anymore. It's about the men around him quietly building the case for him. Guys like Tyvis Powell, who didn't hold back when talking about why he believes Sanders fits into Cleveland's long-term plan. That's not just a teammate being nice for the cameras. That's a voice from inside the locker room, someone who sees the day-to-day reality no outsider gets access to, essentially telling the fan base, watch this closer, because there's more here than the headlines are giving credit for. Then you add the pieces around him. Jerry Jeudy, the receiver with real NFL production, giving Sanders a legitimate weapon to throw to instead of asking a rookie quarterback to create something out of nothing. Harold Fannin Jr. developing as a security blanket underneath. And Todd Monken, an offensive mind with a track record of getting the most out of quarterbacks, now tasked with building a system around whichever arm ends up leading this offense. Every single one of those pieces matters, because it changes the conversation from can Sanders survive in this league to does this roster actually give him a real chance to succeed?
Who would do a better job in the Browns front office? Tone or myself? This is actually closer than I thought it was going to be.
What would you think
it
was going to be?
It's early. I thought I'd run away with it, let's be honest.
What and why did you think that you would run away with it?
Well, I mean, you're the one who wanted to trade for Deshaun Watson, and here we are.
And you wanted 22 Ben Solomons, so...
First off, his name was Scott Solomon.
Oh, Scott Solomon.
I did not want 22 Scott Solomons, a caller into the...
That's the turning point. Not one single game, not one single practice rep, but this slow accumulation of signals. The legendary coach watching quietly from the sideline, the teammates speaking up publicly, the front office restructuring the room around him piece by piece. Individually, none of it proves anything. Together, it starts to look like a franchise quietly building its future around a 20-something-year-old who hasn't even played a real regular season snap yet. And look, the fans are split, because fans are always split in Cleveland. That's not new. Half of this fan base has been burned by quarterback promises before, and they have every right to be cautious. The other half sees a young player carrying himself like he belongs, surrounded by playmakers and a play caller who knows how to scheme guys open, and they're ready to believe again. Both sides are watching the exact same information and walking away with completely different conclusions. That's the tension that's kept this story alive for weeks now, and it's the same tension that's going to follow this team into training camp. If this is the kind of story that keeps pulling you in, the pressure, the politics, the quiet power moves happening behind the scenes in Cleveland, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now, because this Browns quarterback story is nowhere close to finished, and you're going to want to be here for what comes next. Because here's what's coming. Training camp, real competition reps, preseason snaps that actually get charted and graded by everyone from coaches to national analysts. All of this off-season noise, the Tressel sighting, the insurance chatter, the daily edge conversations, none of it will matter once pads go on and the games start counting. That's when Andrew Berry's patience either gets validated or gets picked apart. That's when Todd Monken's scheme either elevates whoever's under center or gets exposed. That's when we find out if Shedeur Sanders is built for this, or if the pressure of an entire fan base, an entire media market, and an entire legacy quarterback competition finally catches up to him.
Oh, I think we used to joke about, hey, could I coach an NFL team? Could I do this? Could I do that? And in front offices, they just want smart people. Like, think about Andrew Berry's background. Yeah, he was in football. He played football in college and all that. But they always say he could work on Wall Street, you know, if he wanted to.
Yeah.
And Sashi Brown, who has been able to go through two different sports in front offices. And even when Andrew Berry, if you talk to him about basketball, if you've heard him, I heard him on a podcast, he was talking basketball, I'm like, he could.
But if you go back to that one moment, a legendary coach standing quietly on a random practice field, watching a young quarterback who refused to look rattled, there's something in that image that feels bigger than just an off-season story. It feels like the beginning of something.
Whether that something ends in a franchise quarterback finally arriving in Cleveland, or another chapter in a decades-long search that just won't end, nobody knows yet. What we do know is this: Shedeur Sanders didn't ask to be a symbol. He didn't ask for the comparisons, the daily debates, the insurance headlines happening around him while he's just trying to learn a new offense. But that's the job now. That's Cleveland. That's what it means to be the guy everyone's watching, whether you're ready for that spotlight or not. And somewhere out there on a quiet practice field in Ohio, a legend already saw enough to show up and watch for himself. Maybe that tells you everything you need to know. Or maybe it tells you nothing at all. Either way, the Cleveland Browns quarterback story just got a whole lot more interesting. And the only thing left to do now is wait and see who steps up when the lights actually come on.